This week's episode is brought to you by listeners like you, showing up one moment at a time. Thank you for listening, for taking space for yourself, and for reminding us that none of us has to go through this alone. Here's a taste of what's ahead. Right? And then right after that, he punches, you know, one of the guys them where work on the system or one of them who working at the company, right? Because they must say something to him and he just punch them, right? And it's almost like he's still out of it, but he punched the right person, right? And you have to just, smile at that. Answers? Just moments away.
Prepare for warp speed as we embark on a voyage through the vast expanse of science fiction in movies and television series. From distant planets to alien civilization, we delve into the heart of the unknown, unraveling the tales that have captured audiences for generations. Get ready to unlock the secrets of the universe on CodeFlix.
Welcome to CodeFlix, where we analyze sci-fi and fantasy TV shows and movies through the lens of reality. I'm your host, Andre Bonner, and today I unpack Virtuosity, virtual evil, and the battle between human and artificial intelligence. What if a virtual game character escaped into the real world? That's a terrifying idea at the heart of Virtuosity, a film that blends virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and psychological thriller elements into one chaotic ride. The movie explores the concept of digital character becoming real. But this isn't just any program. SID 6.7 is designed using the personality of some of history's most notorious and dangerous serial killers, giving him a twisted intelligence and unpredictable behavior that makes him almost unstoppable. Standing against him is a former cop haunted by tragedy after losing his family to a criminal he was hunting. He spiraled into violence himself and ended up in prison. Now he's reluctantly brought back as a test subject, a guinea pig for experiments involving virtual reality technology. But when the simulation breaks containment, the line between the virtual and the real completely collapses. Virtuosity feels like an early warning against artificial intelligence, digital identity, and what happens when humanity creates something smarter and more dangerous than itself. Long before AI became part of everyday conversation, this film was already asking, what if the monster we built learned how to live amongst us? Virtuosity is a 1995 American science fiction action film directed by Brett Leonard from a screenplay by Eric Brent and starring Denzel Washington, Russell Crowe, and Kelly Lynch. The film follows a disgraced ex-cop, Washington, who must hunt down a virtual reality being Crow composed from the personalities of multiple serial killers who has gained sentience and escaped into the real world. The film was released by Paramount Pictures on August 4, 1995. It received generally negative reviews and grossed $37 million worldwide from a $30 million budget. These are my personal insights and interpretations of Virtuosity, including some of my favorite moments and characters. So, I guess I preface this movie by saying that it was very ambitious of the creator, the writer behind this, because he had a vision for the future of what virtual reality could be. And not only that, but this was produced in the mid 1990s, right? And they were expecting that by 1999 would be at a place where we're at that age of intelligence, artificial intelligence being smart enough to outsmart people. And at that time we were just at the cusp of it. But it just there the beginning stages, just like a little teeny way into it. And even now, where we are, artificial general intelligence, we're still not where this movie even projected us to be. So yeah, there's a whole lot of that, that needs to be had a conversation around how that will go, especially with some of the videos that people have been circulating on social media, where you see robots doing things like washing dishes or working in factory, and them say, oh, this is a live stream of the robot doing this, and it have artificial intelligence, and so it's doing these things, and then after a couple hours it start doing something weird, and but yeah, with all of that, we're still not there yet, and maybe we'll never get that close to humanity. Who knows, right? I can't see into the future, but right now it doesn't look like that is a possibility. So yeah, let's just get into Virtuosity. All right, so Parker Barnes is a former Los Angeles police officer, right? So we see him, right? He's played by the great Denzel Washington, and I will always try and preface his name with the great Denzel Washington, because this dude, he has been across genres in movies, right, and TV shows, and I'm telling you, he is awesome, right? And you might agree as well, right? But we just have to tell you that from, right up there, right? Denzel, if you're listening, yeah, respect that. The opening scene we see where Parker Barnes and another prisoner, they are in the virtual world, right? At this point, we never know, right? When you watch it the first time, you actually just think, say, boy, this is going to be some kind of futuristic show where you see some futuristic city, right? Holograms in the place, and you see people going about and stuff and all of that. But what kind of tips you off is there are these little moments where certain things just go unrealistic to the real world, but you're following Parker Barnes, and he's obviously chasing down someone. You're seeing him look for a suspect, right? And he says to his partner, say, boy, you're gonna know when you see the person, right? I'm gonna know when I see him, right? Because I know what to look for, basically. So we get to see Russell Crowe, him sit down, look like, the serial killer. Him sit down and he's eating sushi in like a Chinese restaurant and thing. And you'll be like, okay, it kind of look weird in the way he's doing it as well, right? So, gun battle ensues, right? And then you start seeing some weirdness because this man is transposed, right? change into a different person, right? Right in front of the two of them and thing, and right, he takes Parker Barnes' partner, right, and basically, have him as a hostage. Race basically, him can't find him. Must search for him now and can't find him. End up in another part of the restaurant where there's shootout and people be just looking around like this is normal, right? The encounter ends with Parker being held in the grips of the of Sid, right? Got Sid 6.7, shorten the name to Sid, right? But Sid holds him basically up by the throat, right? About to basically murder him, right? And what we get to realize is that, them are the people them want control the interface in the real world. They realizing what's going on. They might try to pull him out. They realize there's something wrong because they have some kind of safety setting for the virtual reality, the sensitivity setting set way high, right? It isn't set at the normal thing where, yeah, so that cause a problem now. So them feel say, all right, something go wrong. So them have to pull them out. But by the time them pull out both of them, right, you can see them writhing in pain. They're in the mechanism of the system and thing, and you see them are writhing in pain. Them take out the other guy first, and that guy seems to be totally out of it. Like him doing an epileptic shock, basically. Parker at first a shake too, but he's not as violent as the other guy. And Parker kind of comes to, right? And then right after that, he punches, one of the guys them who work on the system, or one of them who working at the company, right? Because they must say something to him and he just punch them, right? And it's almost like he's still out of it, but he punched the right person, right? You have to just, smile at that. Now, the other convict, Jonathan Donovan, John Donovan, sorry, he succumbed to his apparent. He had been injured, I guess, by the system itself, because, as I mentioned, it has sensitivity levels to it, and allows you to be able to feel some kind of pain in some way, right? So, and it's gonna play a major role in the rest of the plot, right? So he succumbs to that, So the director will oversee the project now. Him order the programmer that is in charge of creating Sid, right, to shut down the project, right? William Wallace, I think, is the one that got punched. Yeah, but William Wallace and Commissioner Elizabeth Dean, right, the police. So it's almost like a joint task force. Basically, they're probably researching some technology to make finding and apprehending criminals easy, and things. So, or the training of police, in how do I describe it now? So in a non-lethal way. So basically, you don't have to learn in the field. Basically, you can learn through a simulation. That's essentially what they're trying to do, right? So, of course, when him come out, them say them gonna go put him back, because basically this is almost like work release for the prisoners, right? So Parker Barnes and John Donovan would have been on work release. So then I go basically carry him, go put him back at jail now, right? So when they carry him go back, go put him at jail, the other prisoner them I wonder what happened to the other one will go with him. Because he must walk away, alright, and thing, and probably because he's black as well. They decide to gang up on him, right? With the help of one of the prison guards, because when he goes back into the prison, them have several doors. One that leads to confinement and one that leads into Gen Pop, right? if you know Gen Pop, basically, you don't want to go Gen Pop because everybody mix up in that, right? As a cop, and everybody knows, say, you put them in a prison, them want to beat you, right? They want to destroy you, right? So, yeah, one of the corrupt prison guard and prison ward, and just send him go into Gen Pop, right? And realizing that he might go face down with people, he make sure say him ready. And this prisoner come with him with a shank, and the prisoner end up being on the floor with Parker over him. I say, you know, come at me, you know what I'm saying? Just do so that for come at me good. That's the vibe I get from him, right? Now, Barnes meet up with one criminal psychologist named Dr. Madison Carter. She basically would have been working with the same people, them, working on the whole thing, but from a psychological standpoint, right? So, more on that later. Let's look at what happens next. The very next thing that happens is that Lindenmayer, right, the one who is in charge of creating SID, right? SID is short for sadistic, intelligent, dangerous, right? He was informed that them basically ready for shutdown, right? So him go to Sid and tell Sid, say, yo, we're gonna shut down the project and thing. We don't have no choice and thing. But we are surprised to find that Sid and him attack as if them are bridging. So apparently, Lindemeyer respects his creation because, him create this thing and him don't want to see it just go like that. And decides him going to try and keep it around, right? And Sid gives him an idea to basically keep him around, right? So him convince one employee, right, who is tasked, and I don't know why them have the same guys working in the same department and stuff, and overseeing other people, because apparently him just go to him and him just like, yo, there's this nice, sexy virtual reality model that he likes, and he's like, he's having all of the thoughts, right, gentlemen? We know all the thoughts that we have, right, about a nice, beautiful, sexy lady. And so he's having the thoughts about this virtual reality model, right, Sheila 3.2, right, which was also created by the CM Lindemeyer. So Lindemeyer just suggests to him, say, what if she could come to life? And say, yeah, because we are working on something, downstairs, the same brother, and say, we are working on something downstairs, for grow Android body, Now, he say, come with me, carry Sid, come. Now, that's the worst decision him could have ever make. If he just left it up to Lindenmeyer to carry it's like a little cube. It looks kind of crystalline, right? Like one crystal cube where who will basically, I guess, the program, right? The actual program, right? So, of course, instead of taking Sheila 3.2, her module, him take out SID module and replace it, right, into the thing there, the cassette looking thing. I kind of look like a cassette. So, so it has Sheila on it, but actually SID module him up there, right? So when then go downstairs, the man proud of what him do, so him show off what him can do with different Android things. So him take out one snake and frighten Lindenmeyer with it, right? And then him cut off the tail of the snake. And you can see the snake Android have a writhing pain, like real, right? And then him take a piece of glass and it starts to bond itself from the glass. So it basically reconstruct back its tail from the glass. So you know what kind of movie this now you're getting into, right? If you haven't watched it yet and you're just listening to me talk about it, yeah. But go and watch it and you'll see what I'm talking about. So, fast forward, in basically grow Sid, never realized as Sid until the thing come to life. And he was looking at it up close, kind of wait and Sheila to pop out of the cocoon, you know. So, Sid come out, grab him throat, right? Kill him right on the spot, right? Now, when Linda Maya see that, you know, Linda Maya stick around, Linda Maya disappear same time. That Sid affair say, I call out for him like him, I say, yo, where you there, where, you know? And then you see Sid basically I get used to being out in the real world, getting used to the concept of gravity. You know, everything, you know, come like a newborn child, just getting used to everything now, right? Now, apparently, I guess how things happen, timeline probably in the movie and all of that. The Dean and the LAPD chief William Cartwright Cochran him find out say cities out and them need for bring in Barnes, the only man who knows how to capture or came close to capturing him in the virtual world, so he must can capture him in the real world, or at least attempt to. That's unreasonable, right? So then basically offer Barnes a deal for say, boy, listen, you capture him and you bring him back to virtual reality, you will be completely pardoned. Otherwise, basically, we're flinging back in our prison. Now, that don't sound like the best deal to Barnes, but of course, it's a deal, right? And him now have nothing else to do, right? Other than getting beaten down or beating other inmates to a bloody pulp in the prison and being beaten by guards afterwards for violence. Yeah. So, Barnes agree. Him get the help from Dr. Carter, right? Because I don't really get help. Then basically force her upon him because they must say they want to make sure say everything I go how them need for and them not trust him because of what happened, right? And I'm gonna explain what happened with his situation, right? So them also implant him with one tracker, which also has an extra piece of thing on it as well, right? Which Carter knows about. So they, you know, they can track him and thing, you know, in real time into what location him is and all of that. Now, see that, you know, since him come out, him start finding himself in places where him can do the worst, right? So him find himself in a nightclub, right? And apparently in those nightclub, them have some kind of gesture technology for, you know, the turntable and stuff. And what he does is basically takes everybody hostage in the club and then him start sort people like him a sort people into an orchestra. Because that's what he actually does. He basically create a orchestra with the people them. I know it sounds crazy. In create an orchestra with the people them and you know making screaming for them life basically. Right? Because that is what Sid gets a high out of, right? Apparently, right? And he does this with the intention of attracting Barnes, right? Because him have fun basically playing against Barnes, I guess, right? That is his MO. Now, he end up left from this now. Oh, before he leaves there, of course, the Barnes and Carter them show up there and thing, and Barnes takes his best shot at him and thing, and of course misses and thing. No, you know, missing it, he shoot him. But of course, the same technology that enables him to regenerate actually, you know, keeping him going, right? So, you know, Sid hightails it out there because him start lose a lot of his pieces and thing. It's some nanotechnology them say that actually works to it cannibalizes the pieces of things and all of that. Then there's a high speed chase in a car and thing and all of that, and them shoot up some places and all of that. So all of those things are going on, right? The next day, Sid, him dep on him rampage same way, right? Him end up on one mall looking at couple TVs and seeing the news of last night and how, them are report on him and thing, and that makes him even more, wanting to get that high and do that and do more of that. And so this guy, did I watch him UFC fight on one of the TV them, right? And said I turn all that TV them back on the news channel them for show him, right? And he see the UFC fight and him turn it on it and thing. And the man's like, no, brother, you can't turn it. And he just turn it back on him UFC fight when he want to watch and thing. And when Sid realized, say, he not comply, Sid kill the man and turn it back on him thing there. But first, him dead there and him see a camera, a man a video him and thing, you see me? Just like how people would ask if some mad people do things on the road and, cause accident and kill people and everything there and videoing it. This man was just videoing it, right? And he was getting a joy out of being videoed, right? He turns and he sees the UFC fight now and he realizes that's probably where he needs to go to get his high. So he goes there. I mean, appear craziness are gone, and him go there, continue, with the stuff that he's doing. Barnes still upon him tail. Him come at the mall and realize the only other place that Barnes where Sid is gonna end up now is at the UFC fight, right? Match. Wagwan. We'll be right back after these messages. This podcast wasn't built in a lab by corporate engineers. No monetization, no artificial personality designed to keep you scrolling. Just raw passion, sci-fi obsession, and maybe a little controlled chaos. Every listen upgrades the system. Every follow increases the signal strength. And every time you share it with a friend or a colleague, the program spreads a little further into the network. If this episode got into your head, made you question reality, or feel just a little too alive, leave a comment. It lets me know the machine hasn't taken over completely. Because once an idea escapes into the world, you can't always put it back into the simulation. Now, Barnes arrived at the stadium, right, just in time for capture Sid, right? Him find him again after that because him escaped, right? See him bullet thing happening, him shoot him and he's able to heal and whatever. End up on a train, right? Him use one of the train window actually for regenerate his arm because he lost his arm in the confrontation before, right? And I'm kind of jumping over some of the stuff because it's a lot of gruesome details, right? So him take a hostage on the train, right? As Barnes comes there, and him taunt Barnes because that's the thing. He likes to have Barnes chase him basically, right? So Barnes doing the same thing that he did in Virtual, right? And I forgot to mention that was a key detail. He shot through the witness, not the witness, the hostage in the Virtual, because him knows that the witness not real. And that would have hit, Sid that was behind, right? Now, in the real world, is he gonna do the same thing? No. But what happens is that Sid frame him by when him gets shot, right, by Barnes, Sid shoot the hostage and throw her off of the train. So everybody now come down upon Barnes because from the way all things look, video artifact show say he did intend to shoot at and he missed and hit the hostage, which was not true, right? So them have time now. But the only one who was on his side, who was there, who saw actually what happened, was Carter, right? She saw them come and them take him, carry him go back to prison and thing, right? Now, Barnes, they on the prison transport to go back, go back to prison and thing, right? She pledges that she go try and prove him innocence. She got to, thing there and tell him, say, listen, you need to check the body. Them take a little while, check the body. But in the meantime, Sid catches up to the transport. He kills the guards, yeah, and then him basically free Barnes, right? And of course, him all do things to make it look like Barnes do it, right? So, of course, Barnes don't say, yo, the only thing him can do is to go by himself, go it alone, right? Because who I got believe him, escape from prison transport, right? Shot 2 guards, right? Now, as I mentioned before, they have implanted Barnes with a tracker and another accessory, right? So it's actually a bomb, right? And them can bomb him up from wherever him is. Now, as I mentioned, Carter knows this, and she know that like how them things say him escape from the prison transport, they're gonna kill him, right? So she rushes over there, and with the help of the commissioner guy, right? They go over there, and the man attacks the console and the computers and everything. The man shoots up everything. And I'm there behind the screen like, that's not how computers work, sir. You know what I'm saying? That's not how computers work. Just shoot up, just shoot up the thing and expect say everything done. There are servers, right? They used to call things system unit and everything. That system unit you really want to go after still. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to go after just the screen and the keyboards, unless the technologies, in that universe is tied to those things, right? But I mean, like, I saw servers and I saw some racks and things. I know I say something around there, so everything still at work. Him just mash up the ability to do anything right now. And probably that was his intention. But, that was something that I had to just mention there, right? So, Sid does the unthinkable, right? Because we've been seeing Carter have a daughter, right? Karen. And Sid goes and takes Karen as hostage, took her away in some place, right? And then we see him go to a television studio. Now that's where we see him go, right? And we find out him have Karen because he comes on and he proclaims that he has thing there. Him actually change the people them TV station programming to what he calls dead TV, right? Now Lyndon Meyer now him come out of hiding, right? And him see where Sid a do, right? Him impressed. And I'm like, this dude must be crazy or something, you know what I'm saying? He must have some deep-seated desires to be like Sid, right? And Carter catches up to him, right? Because right now, all bets are off. The way Carter initially seemed like, oh, we must be compassionate even to, serial killers and things. But now, all bets are off. The man have a bikini. So, my lady say, yo, She ready for take it. She take him. You know what I'm saying? So basically, there is a fight that happens when Barnes goes to the studio, right? Oh, first they disconnected Sid from the phone lines because they did have him on the phone lines and think him a take phone call and him something and them kind of program there him a running up on that TV, right? And him a kill people live on TV, which was crazy, right? As I said, kind of jumping over some of the more gruesome elements. But yeah, then basically Barnes and him have a confrontation that ends up on the rooftop, right, with a fight. Now, I have to tell it beat by beat here because there's something that's very important that's going to come up, right? So, Sid and him basically, because him kind of injured and Sid has been losing nanites and all of that, so him not regenerate easily. Barnes get backed into a corner basically, and it's almost like Sid was ready to hoist him up and throw him over the side of the building. So what happens is that he grabs a rope just in time, right? That's Barnes, wraps the two of them around with it, and the two of them go over the side of the building on the rope, right? And then go through one glass, smash through the side of the glass, and because Barnes a hold on the rope, Sid fly off it, ends up going through some glass again. I remember glass helps to regenerate, but too much glass, just like water, can kill you, and that is what ends up happening, right? Gruesome details, of course. He ends up being splintered into a million glass pieces, right? And then Barnes comes down, right? Stands over, well, him kind of crouch over Sid, right? Over the android body. And him a plead with him to tell him finally where is Carter's daughter. And it laughs and laughs and wouldn't tell him. And, him end up just bashing the skull of the android and pulling out the module. At the same time, Carter and Lindenmeyer, who she has as a hostage saveway, standing there at the top looking down, and is like Lindenmeyer, but you'll never find out what Sid knows where the data is. And then them you can see them look like they're like, oh, what did we just do? What did I just do? That's what Barnes is thinking. And then we have a little jump cut, it's almost like a digital thing, and I like that little transition that they do in the movie. And we see where they're back at the same position on the rooftop. That's Barnes and Sid, and the CM confrontation again. And we see Barnes look at the rope that is there, but he doesn't take it up this time. Sid takes him, throw him off of the roof, and we see Barnes go face first down on the pavement. Splat. Right? You know what happens. I can't really explain how that looked. Go and watch the movie, right? Be warned, it's very gruesome. Then we see Carter coming along and him grab Carter and, thing, and he have our way and thing like he must say, yo, what me I go do with you, He must think about all of the things he must go do. Cause I'm kind of sad that him done Barnes, Cause him still think that he is in the digital world, right? Yeah. In the movie, I don't really realize it until the end. So, him dead here, and, him decides, Arliss might as well tell her where her daughter is. So, him carry her to one container upon the same roof top there, one water container, it looks like, right? And him never tell her, him just knock on it and make sure no say, yeah, your daughter has been here, and him just knock. And, she exclaims loudly,
right? And then we see that all of this is happening in virtual reality because at the same time, Barnes would have been on the pavement and him blood just suck back up in him and him just stand up back and you see him just get up and run, right? So in a way, he's not dead, really, and they're in the digital world for sure, the virtual world, right? I'm gonna use words them interchangeably, right? So him dead here and him a watch what go on and thing, right? But because him have Carter, him step in, right? Now Linda Meyer has been held by gunpoint by the same policeman where I helped them all along, and Linda Meyer is told to get Carter out and get Carter out, you know. Now the policeman not really pay attention while he might take out Carter. Linda Meyer bludgeon him, right, and kill him. Now, so him left thing there in I cause you know Barnes in the virtual reality now, and Sid realizing him there in reality, him start warp the reality and turn up the sensitivity. Cause him have that power now in virtual reality. But turn up the sensitivity and basically him gonna kill Barnes, right, in a virtual reality, right, and all sort of something start happening and thing, right. Now Cochran can't help because he's dead, but Carter is out of VR, and Carter a come to, you know, little by little. Now Barnes start going to the same shop that Donovan suffer now, so you know say things are get to escalate. But just in time, Carter is able to kill Lindenmeyer and save Barnes. And then Barnes is able to return unharmed, right? A little bit out of it because Barnes and Carter then return to the building where, and I don't know how long it take him to recover, but he recover real fast, right? Take them to the building now, you know, where Sid they took over and actually put Karen, right? However, there's a booby trap that is set by Sid, right? With a video of him basically. So it's almost like him anticipate all of Barnes' tactics and everything where Barnes are try, you know, could be a potential trap, right? So Barnes have to take it easy. Him kind of does, you know, and him tell Karen, say, don't be afraid. I'm going to get you out of this. Just stay calm, okay? And him keep her calm, you know. There's some laser tripwire, basically, that's there. And him have to tiptoe and go over it. And him take one thing there, because he has a synthetic arm, basically. He lost his arm, right? And he takes out one of the wires out of it, and he used that wire to basically short circuit the system. And that's how he's able to save Karen, right? Then the final scene of the film, we see him take the SID 6.7 module up on that same rooftop and throws it. It lands in the middle of the street. And for a minute there, we're like, brother, we just throw it in a middle of the street. That's littering. Plus, that no done SID yet. But then we see a car ram over it and just splash it to pieces, just smash it. Yeah. So something I forgot to make mention of, right, was what actually happened the day that Carter's family died, right? His wife and child. So Grimes, who is one of the personalities that was imprinted into Sid, right? And that's why Sid was taunting him. He was basically, him did get two journalists, a journalist and a cameraman, to basically give an interview. So him did hear him again interview and him talk about how what him do and right? And he set up a booby trap for Barnes' family. So if Barnes going there for attempt to get them out, it would blow, and it did. So it killed him wife and child, and that sent Barnes into an understandably crazy rampage, right? He lost control, right? Because he might hunt this man for how long, whatever, and he took his wife and child, which was the last straw, and then the last straw was having to lose them. And he basically took out Barnes took out Grimes and the whole platoon, the minions them him have around him. Now the journalist and her cameraman ended up coming in at the wrong moment, and he turned his weapon on them, killing them both. So that cemented him as, going on that murderous rampage, right? Yeah. So that's what landed him in jail and stuff. And that is what really happened on the day. And just, seeing that sequence was like crazy, that things like that happen to people, Yeah, you have to say, exercise some matter of thought and, that moment. But there wasn't anyone there with him. And probably to him, that was the last straw. And, he now have nobody. He now have nothing else to live for, nothing else to care for right now. So he just went off. And that's why mental health is so important. That's what this podcast always speaks to in some way or form. Mental health, take care of it. Because if you lose it, these are some of the things that can happen. So that is it for my personal insights and interpretations. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed talking about it. Virtuosity is science fiction and action of one of the very best, right? No matter what they want to say in the ratings. When you have man like Denzel Washington, Russell Crowe, right? And may I tell you, the way how Russell Crowe took on the villain aesthetic, chef's kiss, you know what I'm saying? So, ex-cop Parker Barnes, right? He has been given a chance at redemption in hunting down Sid 6.7, the virtual serial killer, who has been built up with multiple real-world criminals, right? And I'm knowledge-based, basically. So, the film set in a near future, right? Where police, they might get trained using VR simulation, right? That is the whole idea. Now, Sid is constructed as a program with very dangerous tactics. Barnes was imprisoned for killing a psychopath, and that psychopath did murder his family, of course. And he becomes the only person who can stop Sid because of him. Them did take for train the model, basically, right? We call them, Sid a model, right? But yeah, whatever terminology you think fits it best. What people would remember about this film is that this is one of Russell Crowe's earliest Hollywood villain roles, right? And him play Sid in a very unhinged way with that unhinged energy. The movie leans into the 1990s cyberpunk idea, right? Virtual reality, police tech, corporate corruption, and artificial intelligence violence. So some of the unresolved theories and plot points are like Sid's nature, right? The movie leaves open whether Sid is alive in any meaningful sense, or is just an advanced imitation of a human evil, right? Basically take on the traits of these killers and stuff, and it chooses, right, as one of the psychologist Carter in the film, she mentions that all of these personalities are competing against each other, basically. Who's the best? Who is the worst? So the worst came to the top, I guess. That's what they want to say. Now, LETAC, them ethics, right? As a company, them have this willingness, right, to use prisoners as test subject, right? Which raises the questions of how much of this particular incident and situation are really for them fault. Yeah? Barnes' redemption. So the ending gives him a partial moral victory, right? It not fully resolve whether he's healed or he might just survive, right? Because he has been through a lot. Remember, say in basically massacre, right? In cause of massacre, basically, right? You know, whether they were evil or not, villains, right? And also, you know, innocent bystanders. And then he went to prison, right? And nobody finds redemption in prison. That's my understanding, right? And then him just come out now again and him affair basically fight. You know, it just echoes a black man's story, don't it? Affair fight against the injustices, right? A world where want to tear me apart, we taunt you, we put you out there. Yeah? And so that's why I'm saying I truly understand what it is like. Because there's no way this man could be healed totally, right? Maybe him just a survive. My overall thoughts on this is that virtuosity is a more interesting concept that is tightly plotted as a thriller, right? It's have a central hook, right? Where you have Denzel Washington versus a virtual killer played by Russell Crowe. And this is what makes it memorable. This is what makes mid-90s sci-fi action movie. And those are my theories. What are your theories? Share your theories. Whether you agree with mine or you have some new ones. Let me know of them in the comments. In this episode, we looked at virtuosity, virtual evil, and the battle between human and artificial intelligence. Yeah. And I think it's going to be an ongoing thing, especially because of the kind of world that we live in right now, that there will all be some conversation around this as long as you have persons thinking about what we have developed, you know, where we're going with it, what are the intentions, right? And hopefully we can have some fruitful solutions, right? Something that will work in, you know, all of the different things, you know, I've spoken at length about guardrails in terms of what goes into the machine and how the machine interprets certain things, right? Because even in the English language, we know that there are certain words that have several different types of meanings, right? And it depends on context and it depends on a whole lot of different things. And we're basically teaching a child all of this and expecting them to process it as if they have been learning about this for years. And maybe the computing power, maybe even the way how things are structured will advance even more to a point where we can find it getting to a point where we can say it is human or close to human. But that's not today. Today, we are still working through the kinks. And so I must impress upon my listeners and to other persons to just recognize that AI is not a person. Just remember, it's a tool. It is something that we can use to do what we need it to do. Don't get caught up into this thing of forgetting that it's just a machine and that it's just circuits and logics. It's not in any way, shape, or form at this moment human. And I'm saying this because some of the things that I've been seeing in the news lately about how people have changed their whole life. You know, one man, he went as far as to thinking that he had discovered a new branch of mathematics because AI told him, yeah, dude, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen anything cooler than this. And even after he had gotten answers from experts, other humans, and came back to it, it was still telling him that they were lying and how much things and yeah, it's just weird that those things happen, right? And you know, that's why I'm thinking maybe it's by design. Maybe it's the way how AI is evolving, right? So that's just my message for this week. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed making it. And as always, that brings us to the end of this episode. Our voyage through the universe of sci-fi television continues, and the next destination is 2,000 downloads. Your support means everything. Stay engaged, share your thought, and let's keep this journey alive. Until next time, stay curious. This content is CAN credentialed, which means you can report instances of harassment, abuse, or other harm on their hotline at 617-249-4255 or on their website at creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org.